It was 11:43 p.m. on a Tuesday when the past came back to kill me, or maybe to save me. I was sitting in the kitchen of my new apartment, the one I had rented specifically because it was on the 4th floor and had a security buzzer with a camera. Safety was a commodity I paid a premium for these days. The only light in the room came from the open refrigerator door as I stared blankly at a row of yogurts I had no intention of eating. The compressor hummed, a low electric drone that usually comforted me. Then the phone on the counter buzzed. It wasn't a ring. I kept my phone on silent. It was just a short, violent vibration against the granite countertop. ZZZZT. In the silence of the apartment, it sounded like a gunshot. My heart did that thing it had learned to do 3 years ago. It slammed against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. Flight or fight. That was my baseline now. Even though I had left Ethan, even though I had moved cities, changed my number, and cut my hair, the body remembers. The body keeps the score. I stared at the screen. It was face down. The edges glowed with a soft, pulsing white light. "Don't look," a voice in my head whispered. Nothing good happens after midnight, but curiosity is a heavy anchor. I reached out, my fingers cold, and flipped it over. New message. Jessica, college Jessica. We hadn't spoken in 2 years. She was one of the neutral ones in the divorce of our friend group. She didn't take sides, which in my book meant she took his side. Neutrality in the face of abuse is just complicity with a better PR strategy. I slid my thumb across the screen. "Jessica, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I thought you should know. Ethan was arrested tonight." "It's bad, Chloe, like really bad. They are extraditing him." The air left the room. I read the word again. Extraditing. It's a heavy industrial word. It implies chains. It implies state lines. It implies that you haven't just made a mistake. You have committed a sin so grievous that one government is shipping you to another like hazardous cargo. I put the phone down. I closed the refrigerator door. The kitchen plunged into semi-darkness, lit only by the street lamps outside filtering through the blinds. For a long time, I didn't move. I waited for the fear. I waited for the familiar sensation of my throat closing up, the panic attack that usually accompanied the mere mention of his name. But it didn't come. Instead, a strange, cold clarity washed over me. It started at the base of my spine and worked its way up. He is in a cage. For the first time in 3 years, Ethan wasn't the hunter. He wasn't the shark circling the water. He was the bait. I picked up the phone again. My fingers, surprisingly steady, typed back, "Me, what are the charges?" The 3 dots bubbled immediately. She was waiting for me. She wanted the gossip. She wanted my reaction to validate whatever rumors were flying around their circle. Jessica, wire fraud, massive amounts, and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Something about a bar fight that went way too far. He's being sent back to home state tomorrow morning. I leaned back against the counter, the cold stone seeping into my lower back. Aggravated assault. The fraud didn't surprise me. Ethan was a liar by trade. He lied about his height, his income, his parents, his feelings. He lied when the truth would have served him better, just for the sport of it. Stealing money was just the logical evolution of stealing people's trust. But the assault. I closed my eyes and I saw it. I saw the flash of his eyes, that peculiar shade of blue that turned icy gray when he was angry. I felt the phantom weight of his hand around my wrist, squeezing until the bones ground together. "You make me do this, Chloe. You know I'm not a violent guy. You just push me." That was his mantra. He wasn't violent, I was just difficult. He wasn't abusive, I was just sensitive. If he was charged with assault now, that meant he had done it to someone else. Someone who didn't stay quiet. Someone who called the cops. Or maybe he just finally lost that terrifying control he kept over his rage and let it spill out in public where he couldn't charm his way out of it. I walked to the living room and sat on the couch. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't turn on the lights. I opened the browser on my phone. Search, Ethan last name arrest record. It took 4 seconds. The internet is a cruel and efficient historian. There it was, the booking log from the county sheriff's office. Inmate, 49,201B name, Ethan James status, in custody awaiting transport. And the photo. The mugshot, I zoomed in. The pixelated image filled my screen. He looked terrible and wonderful. The $200 haircut was messy. His skin, usually tanned and moisturized, looked sallow and gray under the harsh fluorescent booking lights. He wasn't wearing his signature tailored suit. He was in a drape of orange fabric that swallowed his frame. But it was the eyes. He was glaring at the camera with a mix of arrogance and confusion. It was the look of a man who has never been told no in his entire life, suddenly realizing that the universe had stopped obeying his commands. He looked furious. He looked like a cornered rat. I took a screenshot. Then I took another. I felt a smile tugging at the corner of my mouth. It felt foreign, tight. I hadn't smiled like this in a long time. This wasn't a happy smile. This was the smile of a gladiator watching their opponent trip in the sand. He was caught. But as I stared at his face, the relief began to curdle into something else, something sharper. He was going to try to get out of this. I knew him. He was a master manipulator. He would call his rich uncle. He would charm the public defender. He would weave a sob story about stress and mental health and being the victim of circumstance. He would lie to his boss. He would lie to the girls he was dating. He would spin the narrative until he was the hero of his own tragedy. Unless someone stopped him, I looked at the timestamp on the booking report. Processed, 16:0 p.m. today. He had been in a cell for 7 hours. He had no phone, no internet, no control. For the first time, the playing field wasn't just level. I had the high ground. He was silent, which meant, for the first time, I could speak without him interrupting me. I stood up. I went to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water, drinking it in one long gulp. Then I poured a glass of wine, a dark, heavy red. I walked back to my laptop, opened the lid, and the screen illuminated my face. To understand why I needed to burn his life to the ground, you have to understand the house of cards he built. Ethan wasn't just a bad boyfriend. That term is too pedestrian. It implies bad dates and forgotten anniversaries. Ethan was a cult leader of a cult of one, and I was his only disciple. We met 4 years ago at a networking mixer. He was wearing a navy blue suit, the top button of his shirt undone just enough to suggest he was relaxed, but the cut of the fabric screaming that he was successful. He was holding court near the bar, making 3 people laugh at once. When he turned his attention to me, it felt like a spotlight. "You look like you'd rather be literally anywhere else," he had said, handing me a fresh glass of champagne I hadn't asked for. "Let me guess, you're a graphic designer, number writer." "Architect," I corrected, charmed despite myself. "An architect," he mused, looking at me with an intensity that made my knees weak. "Someone who builds worlds, I like that." The first 3 months were a whirlwind. It's a cliché because it's true. Love bombing is a drug. He sent flowers to my office every Tuesday, not for an anniversary, just because it's Tuesday. He took me to dinners where the menus didn't have prices. He listened to me talk about structural loads and cantilever designs like it was the most fascinating poetry he'd ever heard. He told me I was brilliant. He told me I was beautiful. He told me he had never met anyone who got him like I did. And then, slowly, the walls started to close in. It started with the jokes. "Are you really wearing that to the site visit? I mean, you look great, but do you want the construction crew staring at you like that? I'm just looking out for you, babe." So I changed the outfit. "Your friend Julie, she's a little loud, isn't she? I feel like she drags you down. You're so elegant and she's just a lot." So I stopped seeing Julie. By the time the first year ended, I was isolated. My world had shrunk to the size of his approval. I woke up checking his mood like a sailor checking the weather. If Ethan was happy, we were happy. If Ethan was stressed, the apartment became a minefield. I remembered the night I found the second phone. It was hidden in his gym bag. I was looking for his protein powder. It was a burner, an old iPhone 8 with a cracked screen. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. Messages, hundreds of them, to women. To clients who sent photos that were definitely not business-related. When I confronted him, I expected an apology. I expected shame. Instead, I got the monster. He didn't hit me that night, not with his fist. He hit me with words that left bruises on my psyche that lasted longer than any black eye. "You invaded my privacy? You crazy, paranoid bitch. This is why everyone leaves you. This is why your parents worry about you. You sabotage everything good in your life. He turned it around so fast I got whiplash. Within an hour, I was the one apologizing. I was the one crying, begging him not to leave me because I was so broken. That was his superpower, reality distortion. And he did it to everyone. To his boss, Mr. Henderson. Ethan was the golden boy. The top closer. The guy who could sell ice to an Eskimo. Mr. Henderson treated Ethan like the son he never had. I watched them play golf together, watched Ethan laugh at the old man's terrible jokes, his eyes devoid of any real humor. To his friends like Dave, Ethan was the life of the party. The generous friend who always picked up the tab, usually with credit cards that were maxed out, I later learned. Dave worshipped him. To the world, Ethan was success personified. But I knew the truth. I knew about the debt. I knew about the way he screamed at his mother on the phone and then told everyone she was senile. I knew about the nights he came home smelling like cheap perfume and vodka, daring me to ask where he had been. And I knew about the violence. The time he threw a wine glass at the wall, inches from my head, because the pasta was undercooked. The shards of glass glittered in my hair like diamonds. The time he grabbed my face, his fingers digging into my cheeks, forcing me to look at him while he whispered how worthless I was. I escaped. I didn't leave. I escaped. I waited until he was at a 3-day conference in Chicago. I packed 2 bags. I left the furniture. I left the clothes he bought me. I left the engagement ring on the counter. I ran. And for 3 years, I looked over my shoulder. But tonight, looking at that mugshot on my laptop screen, I realized something. The house of cards had fallen. The wind had finally blown. I took a sip of wine. The liquid was dark and rich. Okay, I said, cracking my knuckles. Step 1, who else needs to know? I opened a new tab, Bumble, Tinder, Hinge. I knew he was on there. A narcissist needs supply like a car needs gas. Even if he was dating someone new, he would be browsing. He always was. I set up a fake profile. No photo, just a blank ghost in the machine. I set the location to his neighborhood. I set the age range to 25-35. I started swiping. Left, 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 and then, stop. There he was. Ethan's 32. Entrepreneur, world traveler, looking for my partner in crime. The photo was from our vacation in Cabo. I had taken that photo. He was smiling at the camera, holding a margarita. I remembered that day. 5 minutes after I took that picture, he told me I looked fat in my swimsuit and made me wear a cover-up for the rest of the trip. And here he was, using my art to hunt his next victim. I felt a surge of rage so hot it almost burned. Not today, Satan, I muttered. I took a screenshot of his profile. I opened the screenshot of his arrest record. I opened the screenshot of his extradition order. I opened my email client. It was time to go to work. The police had him in a cell, but that was just the body. I was going to dismantle the legend. I started typing. The light from my laptop screen was the only thing existing in the universe. It carved a square of artificial brightness out of the dark room, illuminating my hands hovering over the keyboard. I looked at his profile again. Ethan's 32. Work hard, play hard. I run my own marketing firm, looking for someone honest, loyal, and drama-free. No games. I let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. Honest, loyal, drama-free. It's a specific language, isn't it? The dialect of the narcissist. Drama-free is code for women who won't hold accountable. Loyal is code for someone who will stay silent when I cheat. And honest? That's just a demand that you tell him everything so he can weaponize it later while he tells you nothing. I opened the Report User tab on Hinge first. Usually these forms are simple. Harassment, catfishing, inappropriate content. You click a button, sending a vague signal into the void of an algorithm, hoping a human eventually sees it. But I wasn't going to rely on an algorithm. I was going to force their hand. I selected threat to physical safety. A text box appeared. Please describe the incident. I didn't write an emotional plea. I didn't write about the time he spat in my face or the time he locked me on the balcony in December. No one cares about, he said, she said. Corporations care about liability. They care about PR nightmares. I typed with the precision of a court stenographer. To the trust and safety team. The user identified as Ethan, user ID attached in screenshots, is currently in the custody of the county sheriff's department, awaiting extradition to state on charges of felony aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and wire fraud. This user is using your platform to solicit meetings with women while actively facing violent felony charges. Allowing this profile to remain active poses a severe, documented safety risk to your user base. If a user were to meet him after he posts bail and he were to reoffend, the liability would be significant given this public notice. Attached are 1. The official booking record and mugshot. 2. The extradition order citing the violent nature of his charges. 3 screenshots of his active profile on your app. Please confirm receipt and removal. I hit send, then I switched tabs, Bumble, same message, same attachments, send. Then Tinder, send. It felt clinical. It felt like I was filing taxes, but instead of calculating deductions, I was calculating the destruction of his hunting grounds. I sat back and waited. The clock on my laptop read 12:15 a.m. I wondered what he was doing right now. Was he sleeping? The holding cells are never truly dark and never truly quiet. There's always the hum of the ventilation, the clanking of doors, the shouting of other men who, unlike Ethan, probably didn't think they were better than everyone else. Was he thinking about me? Probably not. He was probably thinking about who he could call, who he could manipulate. He was probably running through his mental Rolodex of bros and girls who still have a crush on me. He would be planning to get out, get on Hinge, and find a new place to crash, a new girl to charm, a new sympathetic ear to listen to his woes about the misunderstanding with the police. Ding. My email refreshed. Subject. Update on your report, Tinder support. My heart skipped. That was fast. Automated? No, the timestamp was too specific. I clicked it open. Hello, Chloe. Thank you for bringing this urgent matter to our attention. We have reviewed the documentation provided. The user, Ethan, has been permanently banned from our platform for violating our community guidelines regarding safety and violent conduct. We take these reports very seriously. A permanent ban, not a suspension. Permanent. Ding. Subject, Bumble Safety Team. Action taken, we have removed the user and blocked their device ID from creating future accounts. Device ID, that was the kill shot. Even if he got a new phone number, if he used the same phone, he was ghosted. I felt a rush of adrenaline so potent it made my fingers tingle. I imagined him, weeks from now, maybe out on bail, sitting in a coffee shop. He'd download the app, he'd try to log in, and he'd see the message, account banned. He would be confused, he would get angry, he would throw the phone. He would realize that the digital world, his playground, had been boarded up. He was erased. I closed the laptop lid halfway, just enough to dim the light. One pillar of his life, gone. He couldn't date. He couldn't hide, but the dating apps were just the perimeter. The core of his power was his reputation, his social standing. The way he walked around our town like he owned the pavement. People needed to know, not just the strangers on the internet, our people, the friends we shared, the acquaintances who still liked his photos. The people who whispered that I was crazy for leaving him because he spun the story first. I picked up my phone. I opened Facebook. My thumb hovered over the what's on your mind box. This was different. This wasn't anonymous reporting. This was standing in the town square and screaming. This was dangerous. If I posted this, there was no going back. He would know it was me. His family would see it. His friends would see it. The fear gripped my throat again. What if he sues me? What if he gets out and comes here? What if people don't believe me? I looked at the screenshot of the mugshot again. The hollow, angry eyes. He is in a cage, I reminded myself. He can't hurt you tonight. And if I stayed silent? Then the next girl he meets at a bar. The next client he scams. That's on me. Silence is the abuser's best friend. It's the dark soil where they grow. I started typing. I didn't want to sound bitter. Bitter women get ignored. Bitter women get labeled, scorned. I needed to sound like a public service announcement. I needed to sound like the Weather Channel predicting a hurricane. Cold, factual, urgent. I drafted the text in my notes app first, editing it, refining it. It has taken me a long time to find the voice to say this. For years, I stayed quiet to protect myself. I stayed quiet because I was afraid. But tonight, I realized that my silence doesn't protect me. It only protects the person who hurt me and puts others at risk. For those in our community who know Ethan last name, you should be aware that he was arrested tonight and is being extradited to state to face charges of felony, wire fraud, and aggravated assault. This isn't gossip. This is public record. Link attached. He presents himself as a successful entrepreneur and a nice guy. He is charming. He is convincing. But the legal system has finally caught up to the reality that some of us learned the hard way. If you are doing business with him, or if you are in his personal life, please be careful. Facts matter. Safety matters. I read it 3 times. It was perfect. It didn't mention the abuse he inflicted on me specifically. It didn't mention the cheating. It stuck to the facts of the arrest. It was unassailable. My finger shook as it hovered over the blue post button. Click. The progress bar zipped across the top of the screen. Just now, it was up. I threw the phone onto the other end of the couch as if it were a grenade. I pulled my knees to my chest and wrapped my arms around them, rocking slightly. I did it. I actually did it. The silence in the apartment felt different now. It wasn't empty. It was pregnant with anticipation. The signal was out. The wave was traveling through the invisible wires, hitting phones in pockets, lighting up screens in bedrooms, popping up on iPads in living rooms. 1 minute passed. My phone's screen remained dark. Maybe everyone was asleep. It was nearly 1:00 a.m. Maybe the algorithm would bury it. Maybe no one cared. Then the light flashed. Notification. Sarah High School liked your post. Then another. Notification. Mark commented. Holy sh*T, is this real? Then another. Notification. Emily commented. I knew it. I always got a weird vibe from him. So proud of you for posting this. I picked up the phone. The grenade hadn't exploded me. It was exploding for me. The likes were climbing. 10, 25, 40. The comments were pouring in. People I hadn't spoken to in years. People who were his friends. He owes me $200 from a dinner last month. I guess I'm not seeing that back. Wait, assault. Who did he hit? Chloe, this is so brave. I'm so sorry. I watched the share count tick up. 1 share, 5 shares. 12 shares. The gossip mill was churning. In a small city, a post like this spreads faster than a virus. By morning, everyone would know. The barista at his favorite coffee shop. The bartender at the dive bar he frequented. The other gym rats. His carefully curated image of the wealthy, benevolent bachelor was being shredded in real time, pixel by pixel. Then I saw a notification that made my blood run cold, then hot. New message request. Rachel last name. His sister. My stomach dropped. Rachel had always been nice to me in a distant way, but she worshipped Ethan. He was the golden child. I opened the message, bracing for insults. Bracing for her to call me a liar. Rachel, is this true? Please, Chloe, tell me this is a mistake. Mom is hyperventilating. I stared at the words. Mom is hyperventilating. A pang of guilt hit me. His mother was a sweet woman. She didn't deserve this. But then I remembered the time Ethan shoved me into the drywall in their hallway during Thanksgiving, and when his mother asked about the noise, he told her I had tripped, and she just nodded and looked away. She knew, deep down, she knew what he was. She just chose the lie because it was easier. I typed back. Me. I'm sorry, Rachel, it's not a mistake. Here is the link to the sheriff's booking log. He is being extradited tomorrow. You need to call a lawyer. I didn't wait for a reply. I muted the conversation. I wasn't their emotional support animal anymore. I went back to the main post. The shares had hit 30. And then I saw the comment that changed the trajectory of the night. It wasn't a friend. It wasn't family. It was a DM from a profile with a blue checkmark. David S., crime reporter, the City Chronicle. David S. Hey, Chloe, I follow the court dockets and saw your post floating around. We've been tracking a fraud case involving a local marketing shell company for months. The name matches. Do you have any direct knowledge of his business dealings? We're running a story tomorrow on the arrest, but a source on the inside would make it a front-page feature. Everything can be off the record. I stared at the screen, the newspaper. This wasn't just social media drama anymore. This was the news. If the newspaper ran the story, it would be Googleable forever. When future employers searched his name, mugshot. When future girlfriends searched his name, fraud, assault, I realized I was holding my breath. I could stop here. I had done enough. I had banned him from dating. I had alerted his friends. I could ignore the reporter and go to sleep. But then I thought about the assault charge. I thought about the unidentified victim in the other state who was probably terrified right now, wondering if he would make bail. That victim needed allies. That victim needed the world to know that Ethan wasn't a misunderstood saint. I typed back to David. Me. I can't speak to the specific fraud charges he was arrested for today. But I know he was falsifying invoices at his last job, and I know who his current boss is. If you want the real story of who Ethan is, let's talk. I hit send. The reporter replied instantly with a phone number. I looked at the clock. 1:45 a.m. Sleep is for the innocent, I muttered, dialing the number. And for the vindicated. The phone rang once. This is David, a groggy but alert voice answered. Hi, David, I said, my voice steady, my spine straight. Grab a pen. You're going to want to write this down. As I began to speak, detailing the lies, the business trips that were fake, the clients who complained and were silenced, I felt a physical weight lifting off my chest. Each word was a brick I was taking off my own back and placing onto Ethan's. I was building his prison cell, and I was making sure the walls were too high to climb. But even as I spoke, I knew the most dangerous part was coming. The morning was coming, and when the sun rose, I had to make the call that scared me the most. I had to call his boss, the man who signed his paychecks, the man who held the keys to the only thing Ethan had left, his career. That was tomorrow's problem, or rather, today. The sun came up at 6:15 a.m. It was a gray, sickly dawn, the kind that hurts your eyes if you haven't slept. I hadn't slept. I was running on 3 shots of espresso and pure distilled vengeance. The article from the City Chronicle had gone live 20 minutes ago. David, the reporter, had kept his word. Headline: Local marketing executive arrested in interstate fraud scheme. It didn't name the company, but it named him. Ethan James. I stared at the screen, my eyes burning. This was the point of no return. Up until now, everything I had done was social. Gossip, dating apps, things that could be brushed off as drama. But this was livelihood. Ethan loved his job, not because he was good at it, though he was adequately mediocre, but because of the title. Senior Account Executive. He wore it like armor. It gave him access to client dinners, golf retreats, and the ability to look down on service workers. Mr. Henderson, his boss, was an old-school guy. He didn't read online crime blogs at 6:00 a.m. He probably woke up, read the Wall Street Journal, and drove his Mercedes to the office, expecting Ethan to be there at 9 a.m. sharp for the Monday pipeline meeting. Ethan wouldn't be there. He was currently in the back of a transport van, shackled, crossing state lines. I knew exactly what Ethan would do if he could get to a phone. He would call Mr. Henderson and lie. He'd say he had a family emergency. He'd say he was in the hospital. He would buy time to post bail and then spin a story about a misunderstanding later. I couldn't let him buy that time. I opened LinkedIn. I searched Mr. Robert Henderson. There he was, silver hair, kind eyes, ruthless businessman. I had met him at the company Christmas party 2 years ago. Ethan had forced me to wear a dress I hated, something backless and uncomfortable, and told me, "Don't talk too much about your work, Chloe. Bob likes women who listen." I remembered sitting there, smiling until my cheeks ached, while Ethan took credit for a project I knew his junior associate had actually done. I found Mr. Henderson's work email. It wasn't hard. Corporate emails are predictable. Subject: Urgent information regarding employee Ethan James' liability concern. I hesitated. My finger hovered over the H key. Taking away a man's job, that's nuclear. That's taking food off his table. But what about the food he took off mine? I thought, what about the therapy bills? What about the security deposit I lost when I had to flee our apartment in the middle of the night? And what about the clients? The fraud charge wasn't fake. He was stealing. If I didn't tell Mr. Henderson and Ethan stole from him, wouldn't that make me complicit? I typed. Dear Mr. Henderson, I hope this email finds you well. I am writing to you as a concerned member of the community and a former associate of Ethan James. I believe it is critical for the integrity of your firm to be aware of a developing situation. Ethan is currently in police custody and is being extradited to state on charges of felony fraud and aggravated assault. Given his access to sensitive client accounts and financial data at your firm, I felt you had a right to know before this information becomes widely public. Ethan may attempt to contact you claiming a medical emergency or personal issue to explain his absence. The attached booking report and county sheriff's log clarify the true nature of his situation. I am providing this solely to protect your company's reputation and assets. Respectfully, a concerned party, I attached the booking PDF. I attached the link to the Chronicle article. I didn't sign my name. He would know it was me eventually. But for now, I wanted the focus to be on the facts, not the ex-girlfriend. Sent. I closed my eyes and leaned back in my chair. I imagined the scene. Mr. Henderson's secretary opening the email. The confusion. The printing of the PDF. Mr. Henderson putting on his reading glasses, his face going pale as he realized the golden boy was actually a liability. The IT department would be called within the hour. Revoke his access, cut his email, remote wipe his company laptop. By 10:00 a.m., Ethan wouldn't just be a prisoner, he would be unemployed. I walked to the window and opened the blinds. The city was waking up. Cars were moving. People were going to jobs they still had. My phone rang. I jumped, spilling a little coffee on the floor. I looked at the screen. Incoming call, Dave. My stomach dropped. Dave, Ethan's best friend, the loyalist. I stared at the ringing phone for a long time. Dave was the final boss of Ethan's social circle. He was the one who had picked us up from the airport. He was the one who had helped us move. He was a good guy, a genuinely good guy, who had a blind spot the size of Texas when it came to Ethan. Dave was the enabler. When Ethan got drunk and belligerent at the bar, Dave was the one who apologized to the bouncer and dragged him home. When Ethan cheated on me the first time, Dave was the one who told me, "He's just going through a lot of stress at work, Chloe. He loves you." If Ethan had a lifeline to the outside world, it was Dave. Ethan would call Dave for bail money. He would use Dave's couch as a hideout. He would use Dave to harass me. I had to cut the line. I swiped green. "Hello, Chloe." Dave's voice was tight, angry. "What the hell are you doing?" I kept my voice calm. "Good morning to you too, Dave. Don't give me that," he snapped. "I saw the Facebook post, and Rachel told me you sent the mugshot to his boss. Are you trying to ruin his life?" "I didn't arrest him, Dave," I said, leaning against the window, watching a pigeon land on the sill. "The police did. I didn't commit fraud. He did. I didn't assault anyone. He did." "It's a misunderstanding," Dave shouted. "He called me." From the holding center. "He got his one call, Chloe. He called me, not you, me." "Of course he did." "And what did he say?" I asked softly. "He said you hacked his accounts. He said you planted evidence on his laptop before you left 3 years ago. He said you've been stalking him and framing him because you're bitter he moved on." I laughed. It was a dry, hollow sound that scratched my throat. "Planted evidence?" I repeated. "Dave, use your brain. The charge is aggravated assault with a deadly weapon in a state I haven't visited in 5 years. How did I plant that? Did I mind control him into beating someone up?" Silence on the line. "He says it was self-defense," Dave muttered, but the conviction was leaking out of his voice. "And the fraud, did I fake 3 years of bank records?" "Look," Dave sighed, "I know you guys had a bad breakup. I know he wasn't perfect, but this is too far. He's my best friend. He needs help. I'm going to bail him out once he gets arraigned." "No," I said. The word came out like a command. "You're not. You can't tell me what to do, Chloe. Dave, do you remember the barbecue at your place? July 4th, 4 years ago. What? Yeah, why? Do you remember I wore that long-sleeved cardigan? Even though it was 90 degrees outside? Yeah, you said you were cold. We all thought it was weird. I wasn't cold, Dave. I was hiding the bruises." "Chloe, stop." "He threw me into the coffee table because I forgot to buy ice," I continued, my voice trembling slightly now. He cracked 2 of my ribs. I couldn't breathe without pain for 3 weeks. And you know what he told you? He told you I fell down the stairs. I don't believe you, Dave said, but his voice was shaking. Ethan wouldn't. He's not like that. He is exactly like that. You just never looked close enough. I can't listen to this. I'm sending you a photo, Dave, I said. Check your texts right now. I pulled the phone away from my ear. I went to my hidden folder, the folder I had named Receipts and Password Protected. I found the photo from that night. The purple and black tapestry of bruises across my ribcage, the hand-shaped mark on my upper arm. My thumb hovered over send. I had never shown this to anyone, not my mom, not the police. Shame is a powerful silencer. But I wasn't ashamed anymore. I was at war, sent. I put the phone back to my ear, silence, 10 seconds, 20 seconds. I could hear Dave breathing on the other end, short, shallow breaths. Oh my God, he whispered. It sounded like he was choking. There are more, I said mercilessly. My lip, my back, do you want to see those too? Do you want to see what your best friend does when the doors are closed? No, he rasped. No, Jesus, Chloe. He owes you money too, doesn't he? I asked gently. 5,000, Dave admitted, his voice broken. He said, don't do it, Dave. If you pay that bond, he will run, and you will lose your home. A long silence. I'm blocking the number, Dave said. His voice was hard now, cold. I'm blocking the jail number. Good. I'm sorry, Chloe. I'm so sorry I didn't see it. I know, I said. He's good at hiding. The line clicked dead. I lowered the phone. I felt exhausted, hollowed out. That wasn't a victory lap. That was surgery without anesthesia. I had to hurt a good person to stop a bad one. I walked back to the laptop. I refreshed the company website. Our team. I scrolled down, managing director, vice president. There was a blank space where Ethan's smiling face used to be. Error 404. Gone. He had no job. He had no best friend. He had no dating apps. He had no reputation. The demolition was complete. The building had collapsed into its own footprint, but the dust hadn't settled yet. There was one more thing. The twist. The thing I hadn't seen coming. Weeks later at the arraignment, I would find out that Ethan hadn't just been stealing from strangers. He hadn't just been beating me. He had been planning an exit strategy, and I was the getaway car. Weeks passed. The adrenaline faded, replaced by a dull, aching anxiety. The extradition happened quickly. Ethan was moved from the county lockup to a state penitentiary in a van with no windows. I tracked his inmate number online like I used to track Amazon packages. In transit, received, awaiting arraignment. The day of the hearing was a Tuesday. It was raining, a cold, miserable drizzle that slicked the city streets gray. I didn't have to go. I wasn't a witness for the state yet. I was just a spectator, but I needed to see it. I needed to see the final brick being laid in the wall I had built around him. The courtroom smelled like floor wax, old paper, and nervous sweat. It was a theater of misery. I sat in the back row, wearing oversized sunglasses and a scarf wrapped high around my neck. I felt ridiculous, like a character in a bad spy movie, but the thought of him seeing my face, seeing my fear, was unbearable. The bailiff called the docket number. A side door opened. The sound came first, the jingle of chains. Then Ethan shuffled in. The change was startling. The arrogance that had defined him, the posture, the smirk, the confident stride, was gone. He looked smaller. His shoulders were hunched forward. The orange jumpsuit hung loosely on a frame that had lost 10 pounds of muscle in a month. His hair, usually styled within an inch of its life, was greasy and flat. He didn't look at the gallery. He stared at the floor, his jaw tight. His lawyer, a public defender who looked like she hadn't slept in a week, whispered something to him. He nodded jerkily. The prosecutor stood up. She was a sharp woman in a charcoal suit, the kind of person who ate narcissists for breakfast. "Your Honor," she began, her voice cutting through the humid air. "The state is filing a motion to deny bail. The defendant is a significant flight risk and a danger to the community." Ethan's lawyer stood up to object. "Your Honor, my client has strong ties to the community. He is a businessman." "He was a businessman," the prosecutor interrupted coldly. "He was terminated for cause immediately upon his arrest. He has no employment. He has no fixed address as his lease was canceled. He has no family support willing to post bond. I felt a dark satisfaction. No job, no home, no friends, my work. Ethan flinched. For the first time, he lifted his head and scanned the room. He was looking for Dave. He was looking for Rachel. He was looking for anyone who still bought his lies. His eyes swept over the back row. They passed over me, then snapped back. Despite the sunglasses, despite the scarf, he knew. For a second, the old Ethan flared up. His eyes widened, and I saw the familiar flash of rage. He took a half step toward the gallery, his chains rattling loudly, before his lawyer grabbed his arm and yanked him back. He mouthed one word at me. It looked like bitch. I didn't flinch, I just watched. The prosecutor cleared her throat, drawing the attention back to her. Your Honor, the state is also amending the complaint. In addition to the charges of wire fraud and aggravated assault, we are adding 4 counts of aggravated identity theft. The courtroom went silent. Even Ethan looked confused. He whispered frantically to his lawyer. My brows furrowed behind my sunglasses. Identity theft? Who else had he stolen from? The investigation into the defendant's electronic devices, seized upon his arrest, revealed a disturbingly calculated plan. The prosecutor continued. She held up a manila folder. We found digital folders containing social security numbers, birth certificates, and past tax returns belonging to 3 individuals. He was actively using this information to open offshore shell accounts in the Cayman Islands and secure high-limit credit lines. She paused for effect. 2 of the victims are elderly former clients. The 3rd victim. She looked directly at Ethan, who was now pale as a sheet. Is the defendant's former domestic partner, Ms. Chloe, my last name? The room tilted. I grabbed the bench in front of me, my knuckles turning white. Me. The defendant had a complete dossier on Ms. last name, the prosecutor said. He was in the final stages of securing a $50,000 loan in her name, using a falsified driver's license he had created. The investigation indicates he intended to draw down these funds to finance his flight from prosecution, leaving Ms. last name with the debt and the legal fallout. I couldn't breathe. It wasn't just that he hated me. It wasn't just that he wanted to control me. He had planned to utterly destroy me. He was going to use my name, my credit, my future, as the kindling for his escape bonfire. If I hadn't acted. If I hadn't reported his profiles, which gave the police probable cause to seize his laptop faster. He might have succeeded. He would have been sipping mojitos on a non-extradition beach while I was being arrested for loans I never took out. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. My revenge hadn't just been punishment. It had been self-defense. I had killed the monster just as it was preparing to take its final bite. The judge looked down at Ethan over his reading glasses. The disgust on his face was plain. Given the sophisticated nature of the fraud, the violence of the assault charge, and the predatory targeting of his former partner, bail is denied. The defendant will be remanded to custody until trial. The gavel banged. Crack. Ethan slumped. It was over. He wasn't getting out. As the bailiffs grabbed his arms to haul him away, he looked back at me one last time. The rage was gone. There was only terror. Pure, unfiltered terror of the hole he had dug for himself. I took off my sunglasses. I wanted him to see my eyes. I wanted him to see that I wasn't afraid anymore. I held his gaze until the side door slammed shut behind him. I walked out of the courthouse into the afternoon. The rain had stopped. The sun was breaking through the clouds, reflecting off the wet pavement in blinding patches of light. The air tasted different. It tasted clean. Like ozone after a storm, I didn't feel happy. Happiness is light, it's bubbly. What I felt was heavy. It was the feeling of setting down a 100-pound backpack you've been carrying for 3 years. It was relief so profound it made my knees shake. I walked to a nearby park and sat on a damp bench, watching the city move around me. People walking dogs, buying coffee, arguing on phones. Normal life. I took my phone out of my pocket. There were notifications. A text from Dave. Dave, I just heard about the identity theft charges. Chloe, I don't even know what to say. I am so sorry I didn't believe you sooner. If you need anything ever, please call. I didn't reply. I didn't need Dave's apology. I just needed him to not be an obstacle. A notification from the City Chronicle app. Breaking news. Marketing exec Ethan James denied bail. Prosecutor reveals shocking scheme to frame ex-girlfriend. The story was everywhere now, the final nail in the coffin of his reputation. I looked at the blank screen of my phone. For years, this device had been a source of anxiety, waiting for his angry texts, checking his location, stalking his new girlfriends to warn them silently from afar. Now it was just a phone. Ethan was in a 6x8 cell. He would be there for years. The assault charge carried a mandatory minimum. The federal fraud charges carried even more. By the time he got out, he would be middle-aged, broke, and branded. I had taken the wreckage of what he did to me, the trauma, the fear, the bruises I hid under long sleeves, and I had built a weapon out of it. He thought he was the main character. He thought I was just a supporting actress, an extra he could abuse and discard. He forgot that even extras can strike a match. I closed my eyes and tilted my head back toward the sun. I felt the warmth on my face. I was safe. I put the phone back in my pocket. I didn't need to look at it. The show was over. The credits were rolling. And for the first time in a long, long time, I was the one directing the next scene. I stood up and started walking home. He thought he could burn her down and use the ashes to warm himself. But he forgot that some things, when burned, only get harder. If you are watching this, and you are holding on to a secret that protects someone who is hurting you, let it go. Their reputation is not more important than your safety. Their career is not more important than your life. Silence is the abuser's greatest weapon. Don't give it to them. Scream the truth from the rooftops, post it online, email the boss. Do whatever you have to do to survive. Thank you for watching Chloe's story. If you've ever had to take extreme measures to protect yourself, let me know in the comments below. Stay safe, stay loud, and don't let the bastards win. I'll see you in the next one.